Hello everyone. I welcome you all in this presentation on Constitution. And in this particular presentation, we are going to look at fundamental duties. So before this presentation, let me remind you what we have discussed so far. We have discussed about the beginning, or you can say the framing, right, or philosophy of the Constitution. We have seen what exactly do we mean by Constitution, then why it is important, what are the features of Indian Constitution. We have seen that part. Afterwards, we have seen fundamental rights. Okay, what are the fundamental rights which are given to Indian citizens as well as to foreigners. Afterwards, we have seen directive principles of state policy, right? We have discussed about that also. And now in this presentation, we are going to focus mainly about fundamental duties. And we will see exactly what do we mean by fundamental duties, why they are important, how they are introduced in Indian Constitution. And afterwards, in the next slide or next presentation, we will be looking at which fundamental rights are mentioned in the Constitution. So one by one, we are going to deal with all these points. So let's begin first with the fundamental duties, and we will see why it is important. See, first of all, when we talk about fundamental duties, we have already discussed fundamental rights, and now this is fundamental duties. So we have to understand that whenever you want to maintain peace in the society, or whenever you want to develop together in the society, at that time you have to have both the things, rights also and duties also. Okay. Rights and duties both are equally important. So here we can say one cannot just assume, that one should have only fundamental rights. I should have only rights and not duties. That is not justiciable, because one person has to follow their duties. Okay, one person has to follow his or her duties so as to realize the rights of others. Unless and until we are, implementing rights and duties together, we cannot enjoy any one of these. Okay, if you have only fundamental rights and not duties, then what will happen? You just imagine that unless and until someone is, not harming you, then only you can enjoy those rights. If he is or she is not obeying fundamental rights or any ordinary laws, we can say, if they are not obeying those laws, then no one will be able to enjoy their rights. Okay, so we have to understand this, that we have to keep these two things together, rights also and duties also. And why it is important? Because if everyone starts asking only about rights and not about duties, so obvious thing is that no one will be able to enjoy those rights. No one will be able to exercise those rights. Okay. And for that reason only, we need to have fundamental duties. If you are following your duties, then someone is able to enjoy their rights. If they are following their duties, then only you are able to enjoy your rights. Okay. For example, right to life. Okay. Along with that, you have certain duties like obeying laws. What law says that if you murder someone, you will be punished. Right? If you harm someone, you will be punished. So therefore, you will obey the law. When you are obeying the law, then others are safe. When they are obeying the law, then you are safe. So it goes, two ways. We have to enjoy the rights also, and we have to obey the duties also, and fundamental duties also. Okay, so let's begin now. I hope you understood why it is important. First of all, we have to understand that this concept of fundamental duty or fundamental duties was not there in original Constitution. What does it mean? That when the Constitution was implemented At that time, fundamental duties were not mentioned in that. It was absent. Okay. So the fundamental duties of citizens were added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment Act in 1976. Okay. We have to understand that we have made amendment in the Constitution, which was known as 42nd Amendment, which is done in the year 1976. Okay. There was one committee known as Swaran Singh Committee. Swaran Singh Committee was appointed, and that committee recommended that we should have certain fundamental duties. And as per the recommendation of that Swaran Singh Committee, Government of India adopted these duties, and ultimately these all duties were added in the Constitution. Okay. And when at that time, that is in 1976, when 42nd Amendment was made, at that time there were 10 fundamental duties, and one more was added by another amendment, that is known as 86th Amendment Act in 2002. Okay. 86th Amendment Act 2002. In 2002 also one more duty was added, and in next slide we will be looking at what was that duty, what is the newly added duty in the Constitution. So when these all, we can say, duties were added to the Constitution, so somewhere we have to add it, and therefore we have part 4 of the Constitution, in which we have added all these fundamental duties in article number 51A. Okay. Article number 51A. You have to remember this. In this 51A, part 4 of the Constitution, all the fundamental duties are mentioned. Okay. So there is a separate place for these all duties. So we can say that as of now, we have 11 in total, right? We have in total 11 fundamental duties. 10 the previous one, or we can say the originally 10 were added, and one more was added in the year 2000. Citizens are morally expected, or we can say citizens are morally, they are supposed to obey these duties or follow these duties and implement in their life. Why I'm saying this? Because these fundamental duties are non-justiciable. Okay. Even it is like, even if someone does not perform his or her fundamental duty, even though they will not be punished. Okay. Judiciary will not punish them because it is not binding. Okay. It is a kind of expectation, right? Which is, which is expected from the citizens, that they should follow all these fundamental duties. And by chance, if someone is not able to perform their fundamental duties, even though they will not be punished by the judiciary. So therefore, morally, citizens are expected to obey these all fundamental duties. Okay. So now let us take the next point. These all fundamental duties are applicable only to citizens and not to the foreigners. Very important point you have to understand. When we discussed about fundamental rights are applicable to both citizens also and foreigners also. Means there are few rights which are given to foreigners as well, even though they are not the citizens of India. But in case of fundamental duties, it is not applicable to them. These all duties are applicable to only Indian citizens. Okay, remember this thing. This one is important, that fundamental duties are applicable to only Indian citizen and not to foreigners. So when we were discussing about bringing these all duties in the Constitution, so of course, as we have discussed in the previous presentations, that we have borrowed many principles of the Constitution from other countries' constitution. Okay, and one of them is fundamental duties, and we have borrowed it from USSR. Okay, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Okay, so we have borrowed these principles from USSR. Okay, and uh, as I said that whenever we are borrowing something from other constitution, doesn't mean that we are bringing it and implementing it as it is. We have to make it, we can say, modified, right? We have to make certain changes in those principles, in those duties, and which will be suitable to Indian society. And after that only we have implemented these all fundamental duties in India. Okay, and we have added that as part of Indian constitution. We have to understand that it serves as a constant reminder to the citizens while enjoying their rights. What does it mean? That we have to be aware that their duties are there towards nation. We are not supposed to enjoy only rights. We are supposed to extend service to nation also. We are supposed to serve the nation also, right? So it is a kind of reminder to all of us that we have to respect our national flag, we have to respect our national anthem. All these duties are there, which are expected from Indian citizen. So it is, we can say, a kind of reminder for all of us that we have fundamental rights also, and we have certain duties also to perform. Okay. So they help in realizing national goals by active participation of citizens rather than just mere spectator. We can say many times it is being said that citizens are just supposed to go to polling booth and vote on that particular day. They just go to polling booth and they cast their vote over there, and their task is over. Okay, but let me tell you that this concept is now outdated. That is not expected now. Why I'm saying? Because we have to be more active than before. We have to be more active. We have to be active participant in nation building. We have to be active participant in, we can say, decision making policy, or policy making, process, everything. So in short, we can say that citizens are expected to participate in governance. Okay. And how will you participate? By performing all these things. You perform your fundamental duties. You actively, enjoy your fundamental rights. Okay. So these all things are there. And if you can say anything is going wrong in the country, you should be able to raise your voice against that injustice. So these all things shows that you are not supposed to just go to polling booth and cast your vote once in 5 years. That is not sufficient. Of course, we have to vote in elections, but after that also we have to be active participant. Okay, that is what is expected from this concept of fundamental duties. Okay, and in the beginning only I told you that it is non-justiciable, but the parliament. Okay, one exception is there. You have to understand. The parliament has the right to impose any type of penalty or punishment for violating any of the fundamental duties. Okay, parliament has this power. They have this authority that if something, if they decide, or if they plan, or if they make a law, that if someone is violating particular law or particular fundamental duties, then he or she will be punished or penalized. Then in such case, parliament can do that. Parliament has the authority to impose any type of penalty for violating the fundamental rights. Okay, so that was one of them. And as I said, at present we do not have such laws, and therefore we can say it is non-justiciable. Even if someone is not performing their duties, even in that situation, there is, we can say, upper hand to the citizens, and they can whether choose to follow or implement fundamental duties, or they may deny to implement that. However, we have to understand that these all fundamental duties are right now non-justiciable, the way we have directive principles of state policy. where government is not, in compulsion. These are not bindings on government. Same way, fundamental duties are also not binding on citizens. It is a kind of moral expectation, moral, we can say, uh, expectation is extended by the constitution that one should follow fundamental duties so that the balance will be maintained between fundamental rights and fundamental duties, and peacefulness will be there in society. So this was the thing about fundamental duties. I hope you understood what exactly do we mean by fundamental duties. And in next presentation, we will see which fundamental duties are there in Indian Constitution. So at the end, I thank you all of you for peacefully listening, and we will conclude here the session. Thank you.